power in talking about problems. And I'm also kind of narcissistic, so I want to share it with all of you.
Today I'll be reacting to this video by Snoop.
Watching them, they're gaming live streams. A lot of people watching them are kids, so.
I'll be reacting to this video called How to Wake Up as a 35-Year-Old Loser by Swix'd. And my cigarette tastes funny right now because I thought not. But without further ado, let's get back to this.
Okay. I don't really know why I'm doing this. That's a lie. I know why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because
let me share this.
So I want to share it with all of you. I recently made the decision to stop smoking in my live streams because I think it's immoral. A lot of the people watching them, and I'm still smoking. And if I'm going to do something like this, there's just no way I can do it without smoking. So if you're a kid, let this be the first lesson. From now, statistically speaking, it's not looking good, but hopefully I quit very soon. It's on my list of things to do. What I want to do here.
Big respect to this dude for acknowledging the fact that he is weak and he needs to rely on this dual full screen. Isn't it poetic justice that we are both smoking while on live stream? Way younger than, okay, not way younger. We are both 90s kids, but I'm still younger than the dude. And somehow this video still hit me enough that I wanted to react to it.
I'll probably smoke 10 of them before this is over. So, I am a 35-year-old loser. I spent all of my 20s and half of my 30s so far doing almost nothing productive. I smoked pot, I watched porn, and I never took the time.
Behind me right now, we have very similar black as hell. If I put my shades on right now, it would be one more way we're similar. But let me do that.
My finances, skills, but I'm old enough to know, and I'm old enough to the point where I don't have the luxury of time where I can bet on YouTube or content creation or whatever to pay off. I'm going to do it. No matter what I do, I'll make room for this in some capacity just because I just feel like I need some kind of like creative, comedic kind of outlet. So, but I recognize that it's not the kind of thing that you can bank on making a living off of. And even if
creative, comedic outlet, wow, now I think since I first discovered this video on Legion of Men from his reaction, and dude doesn't seem to be doing a lot of like comedic creative content. He just seems to be like going live and spitting his thoughts out loud and just thinking out loud, sharing stories from his life and whatever. But it's private or it's public. In his case, it's public. But something where you record your thoughts, you can monitor your own. I guess now we're gonna see whose cigarette finishes first.
Even if you get lucky, and maybe you're making good money for like a 5-year period, you know, that can go away overnight. So I'm not putting all my eggs in this basket only because it makes zero sense. If I was 20, 25, I could do it more with less risk, but I'm not. I'm not even 30. I'm 35. I just turned 35 2 months ago. 2 months ago to the day, actually. Don't do this. But I want to teach, impart upon young people. Although I have a feeling if you found this video, you're probably not that young. But in the off chance that I do get a couple of youngsters here, and I know that the 40 and 50-year-olds are laughing at me because 35 is young, whatever. Compared to a 20-year-old, I'm old as fuck.
As fuck, yeah.
And the first thing I want to impress upon you, if you're in your 20s, 25, even if you're like pre-30, and again, I don't want anyone who's over 30 to lose hope here, because I don't think it's over at 35 or even 45. But
not for a man anyway. I mean, your starting point definitely does matter. But if you've ever heard of the concept of the male advantage, it's only that we only get better with time, provided we use he's gonna be broke and skinny or fat and definitely dumb. He's not gonna have that much value to the world. But a guy in his 30s, even if he hasn't done much in his life in terms of fiscal success, like having money and material possessions, a wife, a house and shit, if he decides to do that shit at 30, he can still increase his value to the world and to the sexual marketplace. So a man's value up to a certain age as well. It's just that our gap is much wider. You know, we have that whole gap from like 16 to maybe 50 or 60, where we can just be as attractive as we can be, as that fire within us. And that's one of the gifts of being a man. And the sooner you start, the more of that advantage that you can maximize.
what happens as you age is your options. What you might have done in your 20s, maybe you take a couple of years, maybe 5 years to explore different career path options. When you start to near 40, you have less time to spend researching that kind of stuff.
Right.
And that you do that work as early as possible. If you're a teenager, that's great. 20s, whatever. Again, 30s even. Like, I'm not trying to say like, oh, I'm just going to roll over and die here. That is not the message I want to impart on anyone. For myself, I'm not going to do that. But also, if you are over 30, 40, don't give up. It's not. Trust me, the alternative is far worse than what you'll have to go through. Well, I shouldn't say trust me. I haven't done it yet. But you know what I'm saying. Like, I'm not trying to take the wind out of anybody's sails. I'm just trying to really, as a secondary goal, I can impart a little bit of advice to people who maybe can benefit from it. The number one thing, don't smoke. The number one thing.
I think every time you say don't smoke, it's going to happen.
But yeah, a big piece of advice I would give to you is if you're in your 20s, those 20s go by real fast. And you want to get a handle on your future as early as possible, because every year that you don't is a year you'll never get back. And it's 1 year less you will have to play with later if you do eventually decide to get your shit together. So start early, because I can guarantee you, if you don't, you will regret it. I'm experiencing it.
There's a couple of dudes, in fact, there's a few dudes who are older than me who still haven't gotten shit figured out. Some of them in their 40s, some of them in their 50s even. And you can see the despair in their faces. It's like they are just hoping that the next thing works out. Every time they come here to me for help with something like a job application or applying for grants or applying for tenders and registering their businesses, they all have this burning desire that, man, after trying all of this bullshit for the last 20, 30, 40 years of my life, this better fucking work out.
I guess I should probably just tell all here. I'm 35 years old, and I live at home with my mother. And we're actually living in my grandfather's house. Not to besmirch my mother, but, we both kind of fucked up with our money, although she's doing a lot better than I am. She worked for many years in a good career, so she has money, a little bit. Decent Social Security, so she's okay, I think. I hope. But I've never left home.
As soon as they they finished high school. And I'm in that same situation, whereas even I've never lived apart from my elders. I was always staying with one of my elders, whether it was my grandma or my uncle or my aunt, my cousin, my older cousin, my mother, my stepdad. And even now, myself at 27, I can understand why that would feel embarrassing to be in that situation where you've never truly become fully independent, despite the fact that you weren't entirely a neat, you weren't entirely dependent, you might have had maybe a room outside, or you were able to feed and clothe yourself because of your own earnings, but just the fact that you've never been able to leave home, man, that fucking stings for a man. It's
I worked. I wasn't a total neat. Back in the day in high school, I worked in Burger King. Pay wasn't amazing, and with the I deliver with my own vehicle. If you ever take like 90% of it and just throw it in the trash, because all that's going to go to car repairs. They usually pay for your gas while you're driving, but even then, I don't think they paid for it fully, but they pay for most of it. But the amount of money that you will spend, there's another piece of advice. If you're thinking about delivering pizza or whatever, always use a...
1, don't smoke. 2, start as soon as possible. And 3, if you're thinking about doing delivery jobs on the side.
Most local places, you'll have to use your own car. I'm telling you, it's a fucking scam. The amount of money you're going to spend on repairs, oil changes, and not even just repairs and oil changes. And if you're delivering pizza with your own car, you're going to have to get a car real soon. You'll be lucky if that car lasts a year or 2, maybe 3. If it's low mileage when you start, not worth it. If you can use a company car and you don't live in a sketchy area, I didn't really live in a sketchy area. I had a couple of close calls, but if you're not living in the ghetto or you're not working in the ghetto, and you can use a company car.
I'm not gonna lie, someone gets shot here at least once a week. And if not shot, it's even fucking depressing to think about. This guy was 21, got an act when I'm out there collecting my order. Or someone else's order on their behalf, because maybe they're not around at the time, and they just want to get out of here as quickly as possible. So yeah, it's definitely not worth it.
Dream job.
Definitely not worth it.
Dream job. And even then, who wants to be a pizza delivery man? So I delivered pizza in the servicing department, and I went to work in the servicing department. I was a Nepo baby. And for 12 years, I worked at this mortgage company as a Nepo.
Did this boy really just say he was a Nepo baby?
Position. By the end of what I was doing, I had more responsibilities, and it was a little bit more complicated than an entry-level position, working barely 35 hours a week. And I got laid off last December. The company's been doing kind of rough, and it's the market. It's horrible. Doing kind of rough, and it's the market. It's horrible right now, and they're not immune to it right now, and they're not immune to it. And I think the company basically ever since then, for the last 8 months, 9 months, I've been unemployed, working my mother can no longer support me. She's retired. So the reality of life and adulthood is finally starting to set in for the first time. And I have got to be honest, you're working for your parent with a family member, especially if they're in a position of authority. I don't even know how they allow that kind of shit, but like I wouldn't allow that in my company. But my entire basically my entire 20s, my 20s and a little bit into my 30s. And I'm not going to totally blame the nepotism. I'm not trying to blame my mom here. It just, the whole time I was working there, I appreciated it. I always took it for granted. I was lazy. I was late every single day, sometimes showing up 45 minutes late. They were pretty chill about that kind of stuff. I always worked the number of hours I needed to, although not diligently, but I would show up late constantly. Exactly what you're thinking. This fucking loser. And as a result, you can, like, even if you wanted to, which to be fair, I didn't because I've been depressed with my coworkers, you know, I'd have to really, really work because you're always in that scenario kind of no favors by not really applying myself and just coasting the whole.
You know, with this Nepo baby thing that he's mentioning, I can contrast that in a cafe from my parents' yard. Which means I don't have to pay any rent. I don't have to pay any because my parents also live in this yard. And it cuts out a huge chunk of what would be the cost. Like, on average, what was it? Yeah, over the last few, on top of that, then my 2K or so. Even on the months where I'm rising, I would know that there are those 2K months where I'm just like, I'm also a Nepo baby. But then again, with my current skill set, with my current qualifications, there are very few jobs that I could get here in South Africa. There are, like, in my neighborhood, most people in my neighborhood are unemployed. Even now, as a Nepo baby, the only reason I'm able to earn more than most people around me is because I've managed to leverage my situation, like this one laptop and that one printer. Well, now 2 printers. I'd probably be fucked as fuck, bro. So I understand what Snooks is saying is that maximize
time, which just made it worse. Like I was just confirming their prejudice. And I didn't care about the job. I didn't appreciate it. You know, I could have worked my way up the ladder a little bit, gotten more responsibilities, applied myself. I'm a smart guy. I like to think I'm a relatively well-spoken guy. I could have navigated the corporate environment. Fired me, and I think didn't like me by the end of it. At first, she liked me, and she even spoke well of me to the owner of the company.
I really hope this.
By the end of it, I don't think she was. She probably thought I was smart, but she knew that I had many other qualities: depression, anxiety. I don't like to blame those things, but they don't help. They contribute to the problem, and it's ultimately your responsibility to deal with that. Like, you know, you're just there to make them money. They don't care about your personal problems. That's your responsibility. That's another piece of advice. You know, your problems are your. When you come to a workplace, when you come to a profession, a career, whatever, you're presenting yourself as an asset to a team to help that. Why? It doesn't matter if you have a sob story. It doesn't matter if you really can justify it and give a good explanation for why you are the way you are. It doesn't matter. Money talks, bullshit. Counselor, they're not there to be your mommy or your daddy that you didn't have. They're there to make money, and you're there to help them make money, and they're going to pay you some of that money. I lost my train of thought. I don't even know what I was talking about now.
You know what? I'm gonna end this part of the reaction to the stream right here. I might continue it later on, but if you want to check out the full stream, the full video from Snooks, I'll probably link it here in the description somewhere. But this is a very insightful video, especially for guys who on, or you're 17, or you're 35 like he is, or you're 27 like I am. But if you feel like you should have been further ahead in life based on your known potential, this is a really good video for every man to watch. Like, honestly, this is one of the most important videos on the internet. So I'm gonna just end this right here, and if you want to check it out, you can either search this title, How I Woke Up as a the link in the description to this video. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.